So today I'm going to show you how I did a corporate film look in DaVinci Resolve. So hopping right into DaVinci, the first thing that I always do is I make sure that I have my CST in and CST out nodes already set. I'm using a Sony a7 IV and I input that color information both for my CST in and then my CST out. And because this is a film look, what we're going to be using is the Kodak 2383 LUT, and essentially right here I made a compound node for it. I'm going to be using the D55 LUT. And this power grid is actually going to be free on my Patreon, so head over there and get it today. And the second thing I like to do is mess with my exposure and contrast. So then I enable this node and I added some points in my shadows and then drop down the highlights just a little bit. Coming over to my exposure node, I come over to my primary color wheels and I drop my gamma just a little bit. And come over to my highlight node, I actually learned this trick from another colorist. And basically you take the HSL qualifier and you mess around with your luminance. And then when I enable that, it just drops down the highlights even more. And then I came over to my primaries and then I started to fine adjust also on the primary color wheels. So I added a little bit of blues and just decreasing my reds and my shadows, trying to make sure that I can kind of like get that teal and orange look just a little bit, but not too much. And then coming over to my HDR wheels, I then was able to increase my darks and then also add a little bit more magenta towards the shadows, so that way I could balance out those blues that I had prior. And then this is going to start making my image look a little more punchier. I really like the way that it looked because her skin tones are starting to actually come back from what I initially had it. And then heading over to my log wheels, in this node I just fine-tuned the shadows just a little bit more. And then I added a little bit of reds, decreased the greens, and then increased the blues just a little bit as well. Heading over to my HSV node, I then increased that saturation just a little bit. And then for the density node, I decreased the density and then also added a little bit of depth from the color slice tool. And then my creative node, I just left blank. And then for my DCTL node, I used the iridescent color saturator tool that is free to download. And then I just increased the saturation and adjusted it just as well. And then that was my final look. If you want the full breakdown, it's actually going to be on my YouTube and Patreon. And if you like tutorials like that, feel free to follow for more. And that's how I did a corporate film look in DaVinci Resolve.